And all of a sudden, I feel 2 light taps on my shoulder. I open my eyes, slowly. And I'm staring at 5 suits from corporate looking down at me with such disgust and anger in their eyes. So after that encounter I had with my supervisor, you would think that I would want to tone things down. You would think that I'd want to keep a low profile, keep the attention away from myself. You would think that I already have it good with making my fake calls, that I don't need to really be taking naps every day. I don't really need to push my luck like that. You would think I'd really think about these things, but thinking about these things would actually make me a very logical and rational human being, but we already know where this is going. So I had 2 options. I could either choose to keep doing what I was doing, which is making my fake disconnected calls, but I'd stop taking my naps at 1:30, and in that case I'd be fine, everything's good, everything's great. Or I could keep doing what I was doing, but I'd keep taking my naps and run the risk of getting caught by a supervisor or somebody else. Obviously I chose the latter because I had to make that job as conducive and as comfortable as possible for me to operate in, because I'm delicate. So the next thing I had to do was figure out how I was going to make this work, because for some odd reason they had multiple supervisors on the floor I was in, and they just kept walking around the whole room trying to just really monitor people. So this was gonna be a tough task, and I was up for the challenge. So I searched and I scoured the earth, seeking the solution for this problem that I was currently faced with, trying to understand the meaning of life, climbing the highest mountain and searching for the old wise man for him to show me the way, reconnecting and realigning my chakra so I can be in connection with my inner What the heck am I talking about? Basically, I was just trying to find a way to just pull a fast one over on my supervisors. Jeez. So it took a couple days before I could come up with a well thought out plan. And this was one of my best plans, I'm not gonna lie. I really don't know how I got to it, but I did. Now here's how the plan's gonna go. I was gonna find a team lead that really messed with me heavy, because the team leads are in charge of everybody on their team, so whatever we do as a team, it reflects on them. And since I was the best employee on my team, I kinda had it good with my team leads, so I was just gonna approach one of them and ask him to just show me the stats of everybody on the team. The plan was to use that data and pick out 2 underperforming people on our team and kinda throw them under the bus a little bit, telling the team lead that this is unacceptable, that they're bringing down the overall productivity of the whole team, and just kind of reflects bad on you. But wait, I also had a solution. I suggested that they send both of them my way so I could train them and we could get productivity back up. Now obviously I had no intentions of training them. They were just gonna be my ears and my eyes in these streets. And for me to know that I had the right candidates for this job, I had to make sure that they were fairly new and obviously they were underperforming, so I can mold their impressionable minds and make them do what I want them to do. The next thing was strategic placement. So I had a little corner at the back of the room where I worked in. And in that corner there were like 2 pathways that kind of intersected at the entrance of that room. I was gonna place my newly acquired best friends in a way where they would be facing each pathway, so they'd be able to tell when the supervisor is coming from either direction. And yeah, that kind of solves the napping issue. Now for my newly acquired best friends to know that this was gonna be what they were gonna be doing for me, I had to give them a little bit of the game, meaning I had to give them a little bit of what I did to boost my calls up. But before I did that, you better believe I probed these niggas. I had to make sure they won't go snitch on me. They can't burn my operation to the ground. I'm running a tight ship over here. So after hours of probing, they passed, with flying colors I might add. We're best friends, what did you expect? So they agreed to watch my back, and I gave them the game. It's the law of equivalent exchange. So my newly acquired unit was working like a well-oiled machine. We were completely unified. They was putting up numbers, I was taking my naps, and I was still putting up my numbers. So just to show you how well we were working together, let's just say I'm taking a nap and a supervisor just happens to be approaching. Now depending on what pathway they use, whoever's facing that pathway would crumple a piece of paper and throw it at me as hard as they can with just enough velocity for it to wake me up. The reason they had to do that rather than just coming over to me and waking me up and warning me is because, like I said in the first video, it was a toxic place. First of all, we weren't allowed our phones in the rooms we made our calls in, and secondly, they frowned at the idea of you leaving your desk and walking around. They wanted you to be at your desk at all times, you know, making your calls and stuff. So we had to do what we had to do and make the most of the situation, and we did. So I had a good operation going for me. Everything was settled, everything was accounted for. Well, that was until corporate decided to pay us a visit. So it was just like any other day. I just come into work, I do my thing, I make my fake calls. My lackeys are doing the same thing because, you know, we running a tight ship. And all of a sudden, my supervisor just comes out of her office and says, we all need to be on our best behaviors today. She says corporate is going to be paying us a visit and they're just going to be basically monitoring what we do every day. Now, she said this at like 11:30 in the morning, and she said corporate would be arriving at 12:30. So I'm like, yo, that just gives me like an hour for me to decide if I'm gonna take a nap or not. And in my mind, I was just juggling all these thoughts like, yo, how can I swindle corporate? But then again, I'm like, I don't want to play those games neither, because this is the big fish. Because if you could think back to my last video, remember I said every day at 1:30 I'm literally out like a light. Can't control it, don't know why. But then again, I also thought to myself, why am I panicking? I literally have a whole procedure in place to where they can't catch me. So man, I'm good, man, I'm good, you know, yeah, I'm good. But then the unexpected happened. My freaking team lead decided to move me out in front, literally out in the open so everybody could see me. I guess he wanted to put his best employee forward so he could make a good impression on corporate or whatever. So, you know, I'm not the best employee in reality. I just cheated my way there. So, like, I guess my shortcuts came up and caught up to me, man. Damn. Once I got moved out in front, all I can think to myself was, I can't take a nap. I can't take a nap, man, because, yo, my career's riding on this. So now I don't have my little corner room, so I can't fake my calls. And I ain't got my two lackeys with me, so ain't nobody gonna warn me when I'm taking a nap and somebody's approaching. So I was alone. I remember just staring at the clock. Once it hit 12:45, I'm like, man, I'm good, man. This ain't nothing. Once it hit 1 p.m., I'm like, whew. Once it hit 1:20, I'm like, oh, damn, Lord have mercy. 1:25 was the last time I looked at the clock, because after that, everything went dark. I was knocked out. I was in dreamland. The one thing I could not afford to do on that specific day, I did, due to my lack of discipline. Damn. Time goes on, and all of a sudden, I feel two light taps on my shoulder. I open my eyes, slowly. And I'm staring at 5 suits from corporate looking down at me with such disgust and anger in their eyes. In that moment, all I could think about was all the dumb decisions I had made. I should have gone for option 1. It felt like everything had come full circle, from me making my fake calls, to me taking my naps, to me recruiting my new lackeys. Once everything was taken away from me, I couldn't stand on my own. I failed. It felt like the room stopped, and all I can hear was my heartbeat. I was terrified. There was this awkward stare down between corporate and I. It felt like it went for hours, but it was like a couple of minutes, and it was complete silence. So a lady from corporate decides to break the awkward tension, and she tells me, get your motherfucking ass up. This ain't what you want, nigga. I'm just playing. She just tells me to get up and continue doing my calls while her and her partners just go talk about the situation. I was like, oh shit, a nigga done got caught. So, you know, I just had to do the remainder of my calls while standing. I did not try to cut no corners. I made all legit calls. I tried to sound as professional as possible. I didn't know what I was doing, but a few minutes go by and the people from corporate come back to me and they told me after their discussion, they've decided to put me on probation. They didn't fire me due to the fact that they checked my stats and they saw how productive I was. You know, I was making them calls and stuff. So in a weird way, me cutting corners helped me keep my job. And in the same token, me cutting corners almost got me fired. I guess you could call that almost poetic justice. So the rest of my time at that job was so uncomfortable because, for one, I had to do the job the proper way. I couldn't cut corners anymore because it felt like I was under 24-hour surveillance. I think they started monitoring my calls because, you know, people started asking questions. You know, my haters out here was asking questions as to why I wasn't as efficient with my 200 calls like before. So, you know, yeah. Plus, I also think corporate was keeping tabs on me. So, yeah, that sucked. Man, I'm thinking to myself, all this just for taking a nap? Man, I can't do it. I can't do this anymore. I gotta quit. So I put my 2 weeks in. I left and I never looked back. That was the end of my time at that job. You know, looking back, I wonder whatever did happen to my 2 lackeys. I wonder if they continued my teachings and recruited new people and maybe made something for themselves. I don't know. Guess I never will.